The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Devin Michaels is now at the center of a chilling murder case involving the father of her children, John Willett. Prosecutors say Michaels lured Willett into a deadly confrontation, then staged the scene to hide her role. Investigators argue long simmering tensions and a tangled family dynamic fueled the violence, while Michaels says the real killer is someone closer to home, John's son, Devier, who is also her husband. Tonight, all the evidence is in, and it's time to hear from the jury. Meanwhile, 4 Pepperdine University sorority sisters were killed when a speeding driver lost control along the notorious stretch of Pacific Coast Highway known as Dead Man's Curve. The women, all seniors and Alpha Phi members, were standing near the roadway when the car suddenly veered off, giving them no chance to escape. Prosecutors say the driver was traveling at a dangerously high speed on a bend long known for fatal crashes, and they have charged Fraser Baum with 4 counts of murder. Tonight, we speak with a friend of the victims. But first, 3 little boys vanished from a quiet Michigan town, leaving behind one of the most haunting mysteries in modern true crime. On Thanksgiving 2010, Andrew, Alexander, and Tanner Skelton, just 9, 7, and 5 years old, were last seen in the care of their father, John Skelton. He claimed he gave them to an underground group to keep them safe from their mother, a story that investigators quickly dismissed. What followed was a massive search across fields, rivers, and abandoned structures, but not a single trace of the brothers was ever found. Detectives now believe the boys have been killed, and prosecutors agree and have finally charged John Skelton with their murders. Tonight, all the latest in this case. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments, and it's been a long time coming. We've been covering this story since the relaunch of this network, so it's been more than half a decade that we've been looking at this case, and finally we've got something to talk about tonight. Let's go back. These 3 boys we're talking about, the Skelton boys, were just 5, 7, and 9. Think about what that house would be like, or what any house would be like, filled with 3 wild brothers, just 2 years separating all of them, and all the fun and energy that they would bring. It's like, if you get married and you want to start a family and you think about what's it going to be like, what's it going to be like? I think a lot of people think of that, right? You start a family, you've got these kids, and it's just like things are happening, and it's so much fun, and there's so much joy. Yeah, it's difficult at times, but at the end of the day, look at these 3 guys. Look at these 3 guys. And in this case, we're talking about something happening right around this time of year. Thanksgiving, just before Christmas, that they went missing. Now, a big piece of evidence, I believe, in this case is the state of the house, their father's house. Disarray, complete disarray. Like things were turned over. It looked like something had happened there. That's the way it's been described. And if you think about the allegations here, that this man took the lives of his 3 children, 5, 7, and 9, at age 5, at age 7, at age 9, you can run, you can try to get away, you can attempt to defend yourself or your brothers. So if you start going after them, there's going to be 2 more that are still, trying to either stop you or trying to save each other from you. And to me, that fits. If something happened in that house would be in disarray. Because after he left the house, he went on this mystery ride. And it's hundreds of miles. And there have been searches, but it's virtually impossible to be able to track exactly where he was or where he could have taken these children and where he could have disposed of the bodies. And the children have never been found. So that's not a piece of evidence they have. What they have is that He has custody of the children at this time. Is supposed to at some point turn them over, but he doesn't. And they're gone. And they've never been seen for 15 years. Now, he's been locked up for almost the entire time on other charges. And all along, we're wondering, well, when are they going to charge him? When are they going to charge him? When is he going to say something? Is he going to cut a deal? And nothing happened. He just has kept silent about it, much like, well, not 100% silent, not 100% silent, but he has not revealed exactly where the boys went or what he did with them or what happened. So that hasn't happened. There's been no admission by him. He denies all of it. So here we are. He's about to get released on these other charges. So the clock is ticking. And now prosecutors, because you only get one shot at it, right? They're going forward. And they have charged him with 3 counts of open murder, 3 counts of tampering with evidence. And there's going to be a trial. He's not admitting anything. Now, I said, kind of like Ashley Buzzard, right? Not really talking, but he has spoken. And as a matter of fact, he's spoken with a reporter from Scripps News, Tom Waite, who at that time was a WXYZ reporter. He spoke to him back in 2011, and this is after the Morenci police were investigating the disappearance of the 3 boys as a murders, homicide. This is no longer a missing persons case. This is a homicide case. So the reporter, Tom Waite, speaks with John Skelton on the phone. Take a listen.
Because people are saying they're making it a murder investigation does not mean that that the boys are dead.
Why do you think they've switched this to a murder investigation? What do you think leads them to believe that your kids are dead?
There's nobody to collaborate, seeing them. There's no pictures of these people. We covered our text too well.
It seems pretty calm, right? There have been times where he's been calm. There's times where he's been arrogant through the years about all of this. It's really strange. It's really, really strange, his attitude all along in this case. So let's do this. Let's bring in our think tank and start talking about this case and these new allegations. Joining us, criminal defense attorney Josh Colesrud, along with former law enforcement officer and the host of the Strong Enough podcast, Claudia King. Thank you both. Okay, missing persons case to a murder investigation early on. This goes back to 2011. And now here we are, Josh Colesrud. It's taken 15 years. I don't know if they have more evidence, but to me, it's more a matter of the clock is ticking and this guy who's been locked up on other charges is about to get out, and everybody kind of believes that he is responsible for all this.
Yeah, you know, sometimes, and when I was a prosecutor, this happened too, that, you know, you have to file charges and throw a Hail Mary because the victims deserve it. Because you have to ask yourselves, you know, why didn't these charges come earlier? You didn't need to wait 15 years to have a judge declare that the boys were dead. Also, Vinnie, I'm going to tell you straight, I don't like the open murder charge. You know, it tells me that the prosecution isn't confident in the intent of the case. You know, if they thought it was premeditated, they would have charged the defendant with first-degree murder. If it was heat of passion, they would have charged him with second-degree murder. And when they walk into a courtroom and they don't know really what their theory is, that's going to spell trouble. So for viewers that don't know, an open murder charge in Michigan means that the jury gets to decide what type of murder it is. Usually you see a prosecutor tell the jury. So it's the exact opposite. And I don't like that with cold cases.
Yeah. Claudia, the problem here has been they haven't found the boys. They haven't found the type of evidence that you would want to have. But the circumstances surrounding all this kind of point in one direction.
Exactly, and I think that's where common sense leads us. So earlier this year, there was a hearing where a judge was able to declare these 3 boys as dead. And I think that was a big step in this process. And he's about to get out of jail on these other charges that are related to the boys. And so I think, as Josh said, the prosecution knows that they have to move now. And so they're going to charge him, be able to keep him in jail. Here's the good news, though, if they can continue this investigation and get what they need. Since 2012, there have been about 660 no-body murder cases in the U.S. with an 86% success rate in finding them guilty of murder. So I'm very hopeful that the prosecution will be able to get justice for this family.
Now, in the middle of all of this is this breakup with his ex, with the mother of the 3 children. I want to take you back to July of 2011. There's a hearing regarding him and Tanya, his wife or ex-wife at the time. He's acting as his own attorney, so he's questioning his ex. Let's take a look.
How do you know that your husband knows where the kids are at? Has he voiced that he knows where the kids are, or has he always stated from day one that he has?
This is not your opportunity to testify. The question is, do you believe that your husband knows where the children are?
Yes, I do.
Believe the children are safe?
No, because they're not with their parent.
All right, joining us now is entertainment host Holland Reed. Holland, great to see you. I always find it awkward when someone uses themselves in the third person. I mean, that's what we just saw there. He's talking about, he's cross-examining his ex, and he's referring to himself as your husband. Kind of strange. This is a strange guy.
I hate the word narcissist in today's society because it's overused, but if this is not the definition of narcissism, then what is? The audacity that he has to not only produce closure for this family. I mean, this is coming down to, it's an ambiguous loss. They don't have closure. No one has closure. And he has the audacity to cross-examine. It makes no sense to me, and I can only hope that even with no bodies being produced, that there's something that comes of this. This is community anguish at this point. It's been 15 years, and people want closure, and they want to find out or figure out what happened to these boys, and the audacity is what takes me out more than anything.
So let's take a look at this from the Detroit Free Press. Skelton has offered conflicting accounts, claiming he gave his sons to an underground group to protect them from alleged abuse by their mother. Now, the mother does have a conviction and had an issue involving, I believe, an underage young boy. So I think that's where that comes from. I think that's where he has brought that up in the past. Here's another one of his claims, that he'd given them to a woman named Joanne Taylor, and separately that he'd sent them to live with an Amish family. None of those stories were ever substantiated. Josh Colesrud, do you think at the trial we're going to hear about alleged abuse by the mother, or Joanne Taylor, or the Amish?
I think all of the above, and I also don't think that this is a case where we don't know who did it. I mean, I think we all can say that we know the father murdered his sons. The question is, can the prosecution prove it? And that's an entirely different question. And yes, he will bring up that the mother has a sexual child molestation charge and conviction in 1998, and that he was protecting his children. But there's so many unanswered questions that he doesn't have a valid answer for. He was with his children the night that they disappeared. He had the sole possession of them. In fact, he went to prison for not returning his children. And the prosecution is going to be able to bring in all of the facts of the unlawful imprisonment conviction. And if he takes the witness stand, they're going to be able to bring up, through Rule 609, the prior itself. So, you know, it's the one thing that I was thinking about, Vinnie, is this. Because the unlawful imprisonment is really part of the murder, right? It's part of the entire context, it's res geste and all that. If he gets convicted, does the judge have to give him concurrent terms with the unlawful imprisonment because it's part of the same time frame? You know, I don't know about that, but I think that the judge might have to do that.
Give him credit for the 15 years.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Let me ask you, Claudia. These excuses, these stories that he has, Joanne Taylor, the Amish, got to protect her, I'm doing all this. He's actually said that. Like, he's told people these stories. And from the way he just kind of, the way he is, what Holland was talking about, the way he is, I could see him talking about this again and believing he can convince people that there's an Amish family that is raising them, and maybe the Amish family couldn't contact anyone and the kids never saw that they were missing on the internet because they're with an Amish family and they don't use any of that stuff.
I agree with you, and where I see the stumbling block at this point is that all these boys, if they were alive, would be adults now. So I guess technically if they were raised Amish and decided to stay Amish, they still wouldn't know that they were missing. But any other case, they're adults, they would see this, they would see that their amazing, loving father was being charged with murder, and how could that be because they're alive? And so they would definitely rush forward and say, no, here we are. And since that has not happened, I think, again, what Josh said, we all know what happened. We know who did it. But yeah, he's definitely going to bring up all these excuses, if for no other reason than he wants to hear himself talk. And we've seen that time and time again with defendants just like him.
All right. Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about this case out of California. 4 sorority sisters all killed at once, run over by this car that is going at an extraordinary speed around Dead Man's Curve out in California. We'll talk about that, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates a morning routine turned into a nightmare in Whitestown, Indiana. Maria Perez de Velasquez, a house cleaner, was shot at the wrong home while her husband watched in horror. Did the homeowner act in self-defense, or should charges be filed for this tragic mistake? Tonight, we investigate.
The Court TV podcast will return.
We're talking about the actual speed limit was 43% of the speed that he reached. He was exceeding the speed limit by 231%. And as the court noted, this isn't just about the speed. It's about his knowledge and about where he is engaging in this excessive speed. And he said he knows PCH like the back of his hand. And he knows it like the back of his hand. He knows that people are putting out their trash cans. He knows that people are parallel parking. He knows that people cross on the crosswalk that is demonstrated in the exhibits that the defendant passed as part of his path towards where the collision took place. He knows this, and yet, with that knowledge, with the knowledge that he is already losing control of his vehicle due to the speed, he continues to press down that accelerator for another 4 seconds.
That's the prosecutor mentioning PCH, Pacific Coast Highway, out in L.A., out on the West Coast, California. This is the infamous, part of the infamous road that Jan and Dean sang about years ago, Dead Man's Curve, a very dangerous road, and it's 45 miles an hour. I think even at 45, it's kind of quick to be going down there, but that's the speed limit. The allegation is that the driver in this case is going 104 miles an hour around that curve, loses control. barrels into cars, and there's 4 sorority sisters. There they are, who are on the sidewalk, and all their lives taken. Peyton Stewart, Deslyn Williams, Asha Ware, Neam Rolston, all 4 of them gone. So now we've got a murder case. The defendant's name is Frazier Michael Baum, and he has hired Alan Jackson. He's an LA attorney, so back in his home courtroom. But we know what happened in the Karen Reed case. Turned that thing upside down and won that case, became one of the most famous attorneys in America. We at Court TV have known him for years. But he'll be representing Frazier Baum. So a lot at stake here. I want to bring in a guest because I think this is an important part of the story. Someone who knew all 4 victims very well. Her name is Georgia Puckett. She was a close friend to the girls as well as their sorority sister. Georgia, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. I think...
Of course, Vinny.
Yeah, I think as this case and story and trial progresses, it's important to learn about the victims, because sometimes they get lost in everything in these trials. So thank you so much. I want to go back in time to the moment that you, your friends, your sorority sisters first heard and learned about what happened. And could you explain what that moment was like and the reaction of all your friends?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, first of all, thank you, Vinny, for having me be able to speak about my girls tonight. I think that it's very important to be able to have their voices and their stories continuously being told. And that night is a night that I will never forget. It was absolutely awful. And it's something that I don't believe anyone should have to live through. 2 years ago, I had just gotten back from fall break, and me and Asha actually flew into LAX that afternoon together and drove back to Pepperdine together. So I was with these girls earlier in the day. We were all planning to go to our friend's house later that night. And when I was at cheer practice with Bridget Thompson, who was 3 of the girls' roommate, we were driving over to our friend's house and started receiving text messages after phone calls from all of our other friends saying that our girls were on Find My iPhone outside of our house, or outside of our friend's house, but they were nowhere to be found. And now there's all of these cars piling up, and there's all of these police cars, you know, coming down the road and sirens blaring. And it looked like there had been an accident right down the road from where their location had said that they were. And as Bridget and I are driving on PCH to get to our friend's house, we were about 10 minutes away from the girls and from the accident. And so by the time we came up on the stoplight, the police had already barricaded the road. We had gotten out of the car and had just started begging and pleading with the cops to let us through, that it was our friend's house, that we had thought that our friends were involved in this accident and that they weren't responding to us. And that's honestly when we had a feeling that they were involved in this.
What were the plans for that night? Was it just a get-together at a house?
Yeah, it was just a get-together at a house. It was the night back from fall break, and so none of us had really seen each other for, a week. And I remember earlier in the day, flying into LAX with Asha, we were planning to go together later on campus. I saw Neve and Peyton, and we were with our other friends, and we were all planning to, drive to the event together before I remembered I had a cheer event to attend with Bridget. So we, had a carpool differently. And honestly, it was a very rare situation that we weren't attending an event all at the same time, all in the same car.
As the case moves along, eventually there will be a trial. Are you going, and your sisters, are you planning to go to the trial?
a lot of our girls who are still in LA have been actively involved in attending the trial and all of the preliminary hearings. And they are very great with letting all of us know who aren't in LA anymore about what's going on and about, you know, the next trial dates and everything. So I am not able to be physically there. I am not in LA at the moment. I moved away for grad school, and so I physically won't be able to attend the trial, but me, along with all of our other friends who have moved away, we all keep up with it virtually, online, on our text threads, and we're actively just always refreshing the news, always watching, you know, the live updates and getting all the live updates from all of our girls and all of like their family members who are keeping up with the case. Yeah.
Georgia, thanks so much. We appreciate you joining us tonight and sharing that with us, and we'll keep in contact with you. So, again, thank you. We appreciate
Of course,
it.
Vinnie. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Let's bring back in our think tank. Still with us, Josh Colesroot, Claudia King, Holland Reed. Holland, you know, this is mass carnage on the streets, right? It's not purposeful behavior. Obviously, no one was planning this, but we're talking about 104 miles per hour down the Pacific Coast Highway. That is beyond, to me, beyond outrageous. Generally, I'm not big on, you know, criminal charges in cases that are not, you know, purposeful conduct. Like it wasn't intentional. He didn't intend to do it. But he intended to go 104 miles an hour down this road, and to me, it's inexcusable and criminal.
Vinnie, it is. And I'm going to have to make a confession right now because my heart is racing listening to that young woman speak about her friends, and God bless the families and those young lives that were lost. I have been on both sides of this coin with that highway, that stretch. I lived in Los Angeles. I have been top down. I've been in the fast cars, the privilege, the excitement. I have been, I wouldn't say 100 and some miles per hour, but it is absolutely beautiful and it's exhilarating. There's a sense of privilege and excitement that comes along with this. And I'm listening to them and I'm going, well, I was in my 20s at the time. But on the flip side of that coin, I'm also a mother of a 24-year-old that sent my kid to college. And the last thing that I want is my child standing on the side of the road, going out or having a fun event, and then their life is taken because of sheer irresponsibility. And my brain is kind of doing, you know, gymnastics right now because I do remember those days of being young and excited on Pacific Coast Highway in California. And I also now know what that means to be on the other side of responsibility. I don't know about the criminal charges. I don't, as far as what's, you know, if it's an overstep or a murder, but there was definitely, this is an area, and sorry if I'm talking too much, this is an area where the culture, it is a little bit of privilege. It is a little bit of excitement. But it's also been known for a very long time that this is a stretch of 2 miles, also over 3,000 accidents, over 50 lives lost in the last, you know, I'm not sure how many years, but it is important for that to be known as well, that the community has been advocating for this to be regulated more. And this right here, it breaks my heart as a mother, and then also as a older former 20-year-old that did not know what I was doing at the time. And so I'm just praying for the families.
Claudia, we've been covering some stories out of Florida where we've watched super speeders under the new super speeder law in Florida. No accidents, just going in an excess of speed, kids getting locked up. I mean, there's a reason for that. It's deterrence, and it's so dangerous. Triple digits, and you're like 17, 18, 19, 20 years old? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is incredibly tragic. This is an absolutely horrible situation, like Holland was saying. And I do think that he needs to be held criminally responsible. But I do think that vehicular manslaughter is the right charge. And I fear that the second-degree murder is an overcharge. My fear is that we saw Alan Jackson before in Massachusetts, and a lot of people thought that second-degree murder was also an overcharge, and we saw what he was able to do there. So that's my fear, is that he's going to be able to somehow twist his way out of this and get his client away without any justice at all. So I would love to see just the vehicular manslaughter stick, because he needs to pay. He needs that deterrent. 4 lives were lost, and it's incredibly tragic.
Josh Colesrud, what I wanted to ask you, dead man's curve, is that a fact that helps the prosecution or the defense here?
Oh, it kills the prosecution, and I'll tell you why. I mean, that's what the locals have dubbed that street, a street where 54 people have died, 3,000 accidents, 94 other serious injuries, all before the defendant in this case put a tire to the road. And, you know, I'll tell you, when a prosecution listens to his emotions, you know, when I say by that, what I mean by that is when you hear what Holland had to say, you know, Holland's gift is bringing the human element to this show. And I feel like that's what prosecutors were feeling when they decided to go with the murder charges. And, you know, I had the same fear as Claudia, that when you overcharge a case like this, it's going to be an opportunity for the defense attorney, and in this case, a very good defense attorney, to jump all over that and really sell to the jury that this is not a murder case. This is exactly the reason why manslaughter was created.
When we come back, the love triangle beheading case, closing arguments, the jury must make a decision. That's next.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
You left him there. You hit him in the head. He's unconscious, not moving.
But there wasn't this much blood. Where I left, he wasn't bleeding like that.
No, this is because it empties out after you cut his head off.
I didn't cut his head off.
Oh, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
And you didn't. Explain how this happened.
I don't know. I can't cut a person's head off.
She didn't have to testify. Jury saw all this. There she is saying, I didn't cut his head off. I didn't cut his head off. Did you buy it? Did you buy that moment? What happened here? You know, her story was all about a bludgeoning, but then there's a bullet casing found at the scene. The head is missing. She said she didn't take the head off. It wasn't so bloody when she left. She telling the truth? Jury's gonna have to figure that out. They've got the case. They've had the case for over an hour and a half now. The jury's deliberating as we speak. It's the case of Devin Michaels accused of murdering the father of her children, also the father of her husband. How about that? There's a twist. Okay, so the defense, she didn't testify on her own behalf, but they did call their own expert, Dr. Larry Sims, talking about how the man without a head may have died. Take a listen.
Is it possible that this gentleman died of natural causes?
It's definitely possible. That's why you would classify it as undetermined. Before you come to a conclusion, especially one of homicide, which is going to have significant effects, you want to base it on provability. You want to be able to prove it. And in this particular situation, he actually had, in the body that was examined, he actually had causes of death that could cause his death. And the fact that the head is gone precludes you from making a scientific determination.
And again, we have discussed somewhat in this jury's heard for a week and a half, perhaps suspicious circumstances, but from merely the science, he could have died.
Correct.
Natural death.
Correct. As a forensic pathologist, that's the role that we're talking about. That's the role I played. You have to base your conclusions on objective evidence, not just suspicion.
Finally, in reference to the decapitation, you obviously reviewed the photos, you reviewed the examination of the body. It was clear that this body was decapitated.
Correct.
Any opinion as, was it post-mortem Does the evidence indicate that this happened after death?
Definitely. It was examined by an anthropologist or an anthropology team, I guess it was, and they concluded that it was a postmortem decapitation, which I don't disagree with.
What is going on here? Someone explain this to me, please. I'll let you guys debate this one. Do you think that she decapitated him, or was she legitimately surprised? And is it possible that he just died of natural causes and then someone took his head? Who wants to start?
No, this is all ridiculous, Vinny. I hope the defendant kept her receipts, because I am not buying any of what she is trying to sell us. And I can't believe that forensic expert got on the stand with a straight face to tell us that we can't possibly figure out cause of death because his head is gone. Well, his head is gone. So that's a problem for me. And I'm pretty sure she did it. She knows where the head is. Guilty, guilty, guilty.
Well, I got to jump in here, and I certainly respect what my learned colleague Claudia says always. However, in this court, the jury is trying to piece together whether or not the prosecution's story can hold its own weight. And when their star witness, the victim's son, gets up on the witness stand to defend his lover and wife, or whatever you want to call her, he just completely melted down with inconsistencies and really fed into this idea that he had just as much of a motive to patricide, to kill his father, as the defendant did in this case, if not more. And yet we are missing a head, but it was taken off the body post-mortem, right? So luckily that wasn't the cause of death. Otherwise, it would be even more gruesome than we know.
I'm zero expertise in any of this, and this is not laughable, but it is laughable because I feel like I'm just gonna say Occam's razor on this one. The simplest answer is usually the correct answer. This feels like a murder mystery movie situation scenario. It makes zero sense to me personally as an observer of all of this, and I don't know how that's even possible to say. I'm sorry. I don't even know what else to say, Vinny, to be honest with you, because it was the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard from someone that is supposed to be an expert on this. And I'm going to leave that there.
Yeah, it's difficult. Does anyone think, we have about a minute and a half left here, does anyone think the fact that she married her stepson married his, I don't know, stepmom, does that confuse the in trying to get to the bottom of what happened here? Does anyone think it's going to make it more difficult?
Is this the Oedipus complex syndrome?
Yeah, kind of.
Go ahead, Claudia.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I think it makes them look worse, honestly. And, I actually agree with what Josh was saying with the husband, stepson, whatever he is. I think they actually did it together. So, maybe the jury will have trouble with that and they'll have a hung jury with her. But I think they both did it. And it reminds me of that song, I'm My Own Grandpa. That would be perfect for this situation. All right. We are out of time for tonight, but a big thank you. Josh Colesrue, Claudia King, Holland Reed, great to see you. All right, folks, before we take a break, a quick programming note. A brutal beheading and a twisted love triangle. Two rival theories emerge in week one of the Devin Michaels trial. Was it a jealous ex or a vengeful son? Watch the latest episode of On the Record with Cody Thomas. Deception, Desire, and Decapitation. It's all available right now at CourtTV.com. CourtTV.com under the Shows tab or on Court TV's YouTube channel. And that jury's deliberating right now. When we return, something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, she arrived with her husband, keys in hand, ready to work. But a single shot changed everything. Maria Perez de Velasquez is dead, and investigators are now weighing Indiana's Castle Doctrine laws. Can a fatal error like this ever be justified? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. Guilty on all charges. It was a fast trial. It was a fast deliberation, a fast verdict, and a sentencing that happened today. Dima Tower, guilty of murdering his adoptive parents. He spoke at sentencing, and then the judge handed down the sentence. And what a back and forth. Take a look, take a listen.
The remorse that I have for my adopted parents is, it might be unshown. That doesn't mean it's not felt. Because when I committed these acts of crime, I lost my mind, and somebody might think that I knew what I was doing. I did not know what I was doing. It was.
Do you wish to offer an apology?
I am on offering an apology. I'm explaining an apology.
Mr. Tower, I don't know what else to say. You seem to be an evil spirit, an evil person.
Evil spirit because you're talking foolish.
Who doesn't seem to have any...
I'm full of remorse. I'm not showing it because...
I will at this time, Mr. Tower, sentence you as to count 1. This is for first-degree murder of, count 1 was Robbie, is that right?
Yes.
Of Robbie.
Proper name is Robbie.
Of Robbie Tower. I will sentence you to life in prison. You will serve the rest of your life in prison without the possibility of parole. Count 2, and often I do run them concurrent. I know that the defense requested that. We have a unique and clearly a special life in Jennifer Tower as well. And I spoke about that earlier. I am going to adjudicate you guilty of count 2, first-degree premeditated murder on Jennifer Tower. I will run this sentence consecutive to count 1. I will sentence you, Mr. Tower, to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Count 3, the fleeing or attempting to elude law enforcement with lights and sirens. I'll adjudicate you guilty. Let's see, this is what degree felony? State third. Sentence you to the maximum of 5 years in prison to run concurrent with count 2. All right, Mr. Tower, you have 30 days to appeal the judgment and sentence of this court. If you cannot afford an attorney for that appeal, one will be appointed to represent you.
What about the truth?
Good luck to everyone. Court will be adjourned.
Life without parole. He never had a life, but he took 2 very special lives. And that is the tragedy of this case. All right, folks, take a look at your screens. We have a missing child who needs your help tonight. This is Micaiah Neal. Micaiah is 16 years old, missing out of O'Fallon, Illinois since the 12th of November, earlier this week. If you see Micaiah, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the O'Fallon Police Department in Illinois. That phone number's on your screen right now. Take a look at the picture. Let's see if we can get Micaiah to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids. There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.